So you're probably saying to yourself, didn't he do a video like this before? And if you are saying that to yourself, you're right. What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the Horror Bloody Horror YouTube channel. I have not done a regular video in a really long time. The last time I think I actually did a regular video was when I did my channel update, and that's when I just became Horror Bloody Horror. So most of you probably already know that in the past I was Michael Myers Reacts. I mentioned that on a HBH podcast before. And speaking of HBH podcast, if you guys have not yet checked out my newest episode where I talk about the best horror movies of 2023, please do so because I will leave it linked in the description down below. I thought it was a pretty good episode. And of course, by now you guys know what this video is going to be about. I am going to give you guys my top 5 favorite horror movies of all time. Now, I did do a video like this when I was Michael Myers Reacts, which has been nearly 2 years since I've been Michael Myers Reacts, and that video probably was about 4 years ago. So some of you may not know that video if you're new to my channel, because at that point I didn't even have over 1,000 subscribers. Now I do. And I wanted to redo it. I wanted to do my top 5 favorite horror movies of all time so you guys would know. If you've been listening to my podcasts over the years, you probably pretty much already know my top 5, but I thought I'd do a video strictly just talking about my top 5 favorite horror movies. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, a top 5 is always hard for me because, you know, everybody has their favorite horror movie, you know, the main one that got them into horror, the movie that they love the most. But when it comes to doing a top 5 list, it's always difficult for me because it's always changing. But I have realized that most of the movies that I'm going to be talking about on this video was on that old video. So my top 5 really hasn't changed too much at all. And I'm sure most of you know my number 1. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get right into this. Number 5 on my list, I'm going to go ahead and put John Carpenter's The Thing. Now, The Thing is, to me, the greatest monster movie ever made. Carpenter's best movie. I will put that out there. Obviously, I love Halloween more, and to me, Halloween is my favorite John Carpenter movie, but his best movie is hands down The Thing. And I feel like most John Carpenter fans would agree with me on this. And this was hard for me because I almost wanted to put George A. Romero's Dawn of the Dead because it's my favorite zombie movie of all time. It's honestly it would be in my top 10. I almost said top 5. It would be in my top 10 for sure if this was a top 10 list. I love Dawn of the Dead, but I'm going to go ahead and put John Carpenter's The Thing because, man, the effects in this movie, Kurt Russell as MacReady, the entire cast actually is amazing. The setting of the movie, you know, Carpenter just had literally lightning in a bottle with this movie as well. And it's sad that the movie didn't really perform all that well in theaters. You know, John Carpenter's biggest hit was Halloween, but it's so unfortunate that The Thing got looked over when it was coming out. Obviously now everybody loves it, and it gets the love that it deserves for sure. So let's go ahead and get into number 4 on my list, and that is going to go to Sam Raimi's The Evil Dead from 1981. But yeah, number 4 has to go to Sam Raimi's The Evil Dead because this movie is so good, man. The effects are still great. It's still a scary movie, honestly. To this day, it still kind of leaves me with a really weird feeling. Not so much of like another movie I'm going to talk about here soon. But man, The Evil Dead is just timeless in my opinion. It's the best one in the franchise. I don't care what anybody says. Evil Dead 2 is a great sequel. Army of Darkness is great. The Ash versus Evil Dead show is great. Evil Dead Rise is good. Evil Dead 2013, it don't matter. The Evil Dead from 1981 is the best. Sam Raimi is so good. And Bruce Campbell's Ash, I mean, what do I have to really say? I mean, he's just groovy in that performance, right? But yeah, man, The Evil Dead is, I love it. I could watch it anytime, any day, and it just never gets old. It's kind of like on that level of another movie I'm going to be talking about soon. And another thing about The Evil Dead, it just shows that you can get a group of friends together, have a very low budget or literally almost no budget at all, and just find a location and make a iconic horror film. I mean, look at The Evil Dead. It's amazing how that movie was literally nothing. There was like no budget for the movie. It's just a group of friends making a movie basically, and now it's got a cult following. Everybody loves The Evil Dead, and it's a really big horror franchise now. So it just shows you that, you know, even if you don't have a big budget for something, if you have a really good story and great makeup effects, because I gotta say that, man, The Evil Dead has some of the best makeup effects I've ever seen in any horror movie. As long as you have that down, you're capable of making a classic. So let's go ahead and get into number 3, and this was the movie I was talking about a little bit ago that I said I was going to mention that leaves me with a really uneasy, weird feeling, and that is going to go to William Friedkin's The Exorcist. Now, The Exorcist to me is still the scariest movie of all time. I absolutely think that movie deserves that title still to this day. Now, obviously, we are all desensitized now, so some of the stuff in that movie may be boring to the younger generation and it may not scare the younger generation, but to this day, I still think the movie is terrifying. I think it holds up, and it leaves me with this very weird feeling every time after I watch it, because it's The Exorcist. Like, everybody knows this movie, whether you've seen it or not. Everybody has seen how Linda Blair looks in the makeup. Everybody has seen certain clips from this movie or photos. Whatever it may be, you know The Exorcist, and it's so iconic. It has to be in, I feel like, every horror fan's top 5. Because it even scares horror fans. I mean, it really does leave me with a very weird feeling after watching it. Not in a bad way. It's just one of those movies to where it's so powerful and creepy and has a great atmosphere about it as well, that after you watch it, it just lingers in your head. And of course, the performances in The Exorcist sticks with you. I mean, everything about this movie is just incredible. I can't, this is the definition of a perfect horror film, or a perfect film in general, honestly. Now, I've said this before on the channel, it's very hard to make a perfect horror film. You're going to find some sort of problem with almost every movie ever made, but to me, this is very close. This is a 10 out of 10. I don't have any complaints with it, and there's other movies like that as well, but to me, this is a perfect film in general, not just for horror, just cinema in general. So let's go ahead and get into number 2. Number 2 on my list is going to go to a 80s slasher film that I think pretty much everybody loves. It's a Wes Craven film, and that is A Nightmare on Elm Street. Now, A Nightmare on Elm Street at the time was very different. Nobody's seen anything like it. Robert Englund portrayed Freddy Krueger and made history right then and there. And to me, A Nightmare on Elm Street definitely holds up. Now, some will say that it's a product of its time, and I would agree with that in a way, but it holds up. It has such a great charm. Some of the effects may be a little dated, but overall, it's still very impressive to this day. Wes Craven also had lightning in a bottle with this one, as I was speaking about John Carpenter's The Thing. And Wes Craven's A Nightmare on Elm Street blows me away still. Every time I watch it, it just doesn't get old. The entire Elm Street franchise I love. I'm a big Robert Englund fan, so of course I'm going to love this franchise. And I'm a big Wes Craven fan. And I remember the impact that A Nightmare on Elm Street had on me. When you see that opening scene with Tina having her dream with the sheep, and she's in the boiler room with Freddy, really just scared me, honestly. And then you get into the whole scene at the school where Nancy's dreaming and she sees Tina in the body bag and she's like, Nancy. I've talked about this before, and that scene literally scared me as a kid. It scarred me, and it still sticks with me to this day. Even still watching that scene now, to me, is still very unsettling. And of course, Heather Langenkamp as Nancy is iconic. She's one of the best final girls ever. Robert Englund as Freddy it's just all iconic. I mean, if you don't like A Nightmare on Elm Street, how can you even call yourself a horror fan? I think most horror fans do love the film. You could pick out problems with it, but that's another definition of a perfect slasher to me. That story is so strong, and that's why it's in my top 5. And of course, number 1 on my list, I think most of you know it by now because I've expressed this so many times on the channel. Number 1 on my list is going to go to John Carpenter's Halloween. Now, of course, another Carpenter movie is going to make it on this list because I'm a big John Carpenter fan, and Halloween had the biggest impact on me. Without this movie, I don't know if I would be the horror fan that I am today, so I owe a lot to John and Halloween. The character of Michael Myers stuck with me as a kid, and I still love the character. The character definitely is timeless. I mean, the character's over 45 years old, and we want more Halloween. Just us Halloween fans can't get enough. Michael Myers is like a drug. I mean, honestly, it's like an addiction. You just want more and more and more. But yeah, as a kid, I would sit down and watch Fear Fest, and they would have a Halloween marathon, and I would be super excited. I would watch it unless I had to leave, and then when I left and came back, I would turn the TV back on, and Fear Fest would be showing a Halloween movie, and it just stuck with me. But John Carpenter's Halloween is my favorite horror movie of all time because that's just what got me into the genre. That movie, to me, is a perfect slasher film, a perfect story. You could pick out problems with it. I could say that 100 times because no movie is really truly perfect, but Halloween just did it for me, and it did it for a lot of people, honestly. I know some people were introduced to horror through different movies, but Halloween is a big one, and I just think most people can't deny that Halloween is just so iconic. What's fun about these kind of videos, I know this is random, but what's fun about these videos is hearing everybody's top 5s, because they're usually always different. I mean, you could have put the Texas Chainsaw Massacre in here, you could have put Friday the 13th in here, you could have put Night of the Living Dead on here, you could have put any movie in this top 5, so you know, obviously Halloween's my number one. I don't have to talk about it too much because you guys just know that. Especially if you've been around. If you're new here, now you know. And if you did enjoy this video, please leave a like and subscribe. I would definitely appreciate that because, you know, it feels good to be back and to be filming again. I haven't done this in a while. I'm still going to do the podcast, of course, but yeah, I wanted to do videos again. This is the first time I've been on camera in a long time. But yeah, let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think of my top 5. Also, let me know your guys' top 5 in the comment section down below. And with that being said, like and subscribe, as I said. How many times am I going to say said? So yeah, like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it, and I will see you guys very soon.